Not, a little while ago, how long have you known Coach Radcliffe? I said about 30 minutes, but I had lunch with him today, and I feel like I know him now. A couple interesting things. One is an Oregon guy for a long time, and something about Oregon makes me get really excited. You know, I don't know what it is about Oregon, but it is at the top of my bucket list. My wife and I are going to drive out there next June, and we're going to do the Oregon thing. Coach Radcliffe is one of the few, if not the only, strength trainer that I know of that does both football and track. And you do another sport too, don't you? Baseball and volleyball. But the fact that a football coach would trust him when he's not football the year round fits in perfectly with the vision of Chris Corpus and I of merging the two sports. Oregon has done that better than any school in the country. And it's the trust the football coach has in Jimmy Radcliffe that allows that. So, you're going to be in for a great treat here. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Without anything else, here's Jimmy.
Thank you, Tony. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Wish I could have been here even yesterday and listened to all the speakers everybody I've listened to today. I've enjoyed and learned a lot. What Tony and Chris wanted me to kind of talk about is, this whole blend of things and the concepts that we've been using at the University of Oregon for quite some years. This is my 31st year at the university. So it's kind of entitled The Art of Sports Training from that standpoint. You think back to your Sun Tzu, Art of War, and the concepts, if you've ever read any of that kind of stuff. This is a conceptual lecture today. Basically, it truly is an art. The art of what we do, how we do that. But the main thing is why we do it. Okay? Why did Michelangelo use the kind of paints that he did, and how did he draw it out, and what was his vision, and that type of thing. But there was a why for the whole thing. For me, it's a constant questioning of what I'm doing, or what we are doing from that standpoint. The strength stuff, the speed stuff, the so-called endurance stuff, the agility, so-called agility stuff, where does that fit either outside or inside the spectrum of performance on an athletic field? Hopefully, it fits within the spectrum and not outside of it from that standpoint. So, what am I doing and why am I doing it in terms of where that fits from there? If you've ever seen any of the TED Talks, one of the most popular ones is the Simon Sinek TED Talk, where he talks about why fantastic long-term businesses are fantastic and long-term. It's called the rule of the golden circle. Most businesses will tell you what they make, how they make it, and so you should buy it. But the real good companies, the real good businesses, they spend less time about what and how and why they made it for you to buy. That's them. And so that's why you end up buying more of them and making them a quality business. In terms of us as a coach, a coaching staff, and a sports performance group, that type of thing, you start with the why. And the why for us is the ability to burst, accelerate, or also surge. As Tony told you, I'm in charge of all of football training, in charge of all the track and field and cross-country training. In fact, there's also even an elite group of most collegiate track athletes that I work with. Most of them are from 800 meters up to 5,000 meters. And obviously, when you're thinking about football and sprints and jumps and track and field and basketball and those kind of things, you can see where burst and acceleration apply. But even for a distance runner, a so-called endurance athlete, makes you a good one versus not so good one is your ability to surge. Use that surge efficiently and economically to so-called win the race when it's necessary to win, or get yourself to the lead of the pack when it's necessary. So this why we spend time on burst, acceleration, and surge. It is the #1 factor of great and or elite athleticism, especially in field sports, court sports, team sports. There, the more people you have on your team that can burst and accelerate or surge better than others, the more successful you'll have in NCP. Think about it in terms of not only that, that's the why. So how do we accomplish that? Well, it's the things that you do consistently. I really enjoyed listening to Chris just now in terms of how he took people from point A to point B just by making certain little changes that they had to do consistently so that it showed up when they were doing their repetitive running type thing. It's how you're doing it, the technical aspects of that. For us, the what, the outer circle, it's not so much more about what we're doing, it's actually more about what we're not doing, what we're trying to stay away from and keep from creeping into our programming. A lot of people do a lot of cool stuff, but again, does it fit within that circle of actual true performance, or does it actually take you farther away? Look at a football practice. An average football practice. The number of acceleration reps for like skill positions, and that's not even counting individual periods, just within the period, kind of team periods, the 7-on-7, the skelly, the team time periods, those kind of things. You're looking at 90 plus reps where they have to burst and accelerate. That's for the people farther away from the ball. For people closer to the ball, those on the line of scrimmage and things like that, you're still looking at 65, 55, 65 burst and acceleration reps every day that they're practicing that kind of thing. That's why this needs to be the golden circle, and then you figure out what needs to be done consistently to go along with that. The reason I even came up with this slide is because sometimes, we have an injury or something like that, and the sports medicine staff do a great job of, getting rehab, and then they say, okay, they're not ready to practice yet, but they're ready to start jogging. But jogging's nowhere in this circle. Right? It's actually one of those things we'd rather not go to, because that's actually mechanics to take us away from the golden circle. So it's just those kind of thought processes that we're talking about from there. It comes down to two things for us. It's ground negotiation. Chris did an awesome job and I'm just going to kind of simplify it from the standpoint of, not every coach knows everything about all the things that he was talking about. If you're a football coach, you say, well, wait a minute, he was talking about this and that. Just look at it this way. The better the stick figure, the better they negotiate their ground. You say, well, my linemen don't get up in the air like that when they come off the line of scrimmage. Then just tilt the picture. Because it's still, they're going to accelerate off the line of scrimmage. They're going to make more impact to that opposing lineman if they have a straighter stick figure than they have more bends in the stick figure. The worse they get off the ground and the less impact they have into the other thing they're trying to go. Which goes to the next thing. They're going to be better at those ground negotiations stick figure wise if they have postural control. So our strength training, speed training, agility training, all that kind of thing should hover around those two things. Better postural control for better ground negotiation. And when you think again about the injury standpoint of it, even those injuries that occur, like to some people in some situations, throwers, tacklers, shooters, whatever it is, it ripped up their shoulder. Good chance it had something to do with across that body and across the hips and something that they were doing negotiating the ground wise. If they had negotiated the ground better, they'd have been in a better position and probably wouldn't have negotiating the ground, so you can negotiate your posture and your body control to do what you need to have done. Again, so that's, for most of us, that's just, well, that's core strength, and that's those kind of things. But the core concepts are more than just, hey, I got to be great with the abs and the low back and that type of thing. It's more about how you use that total mobility, that postural control. And think about it. In most athletic endeavors, that strength, power, speed, and total mobility has to happen over a very small pace of support. And I'll show you a couple other things later on in terms of, yeah, the amount of force that's getting there and the quickness that is applied, that's not a very large base of support. So if we're spending a lot of time training on a wider base, slower base of support, we're not really attending to these concepts right here. The other part about it, this other part about postural control and core strength, is their upright movement patterns. Not only when you're on the ground, but as you're preparing to get back on the ground, or otherwise you're riding and tilting reflexes. Okay? I'll show a couple more slides about the same thing. But again, her ability to, okay, she's kicked the ball down the field, she's landed on the ground, what happens? One or two things happen. When she lands on the ground, either the trainers come out with a stretcher, because she didn't land correctly, or she landed very quickly and efficiently, and now she's down the field, maybe she gets another chance to kick the ball into the goal, and everybody's happy, and away we go. But it all centered around how well she was able to right and tilt herself, and her body control that dictates which happened. Did she go down the field, or did she go off on the sideline? So probably in the advertisement of this, I think Tony's talked about this bullets over bowling balls thing that's been attached to a lot of the stuff that I do. So I'll just give you a little bit about the evolution of how all these methodologies came about. And basically, it was this whole concept of how much of the training am I doing fits into the actual sports performance realm, and how much of it is just, oh, that's great weight room stuff, or that's a cool conditioning drill, or that's a neat agility thing there. And so while we were doing this several years ago, one of our offensive linemen said to me, you know, we don't train like a lot of other places. You know, my bench press is not, you know, expanding like everybody else's and that type of thing. He said, I'm not complaining or anything, because he was a good player for us, a starter, and played for a long time. He said, but it's just different. I said, that's because I'm not training you to be a bowling ball. The bullet's not going people down in bowling balls. That's really all I said, and then all of a sudden he took that, he made a video about it, and it just kind of took off from the way it's gone. But it is the whole type of thing, and I'll get to that why I said that here in a second. The evolution of it is I used to do a whole ton of stuff. And a lot of, you know, you think, well, as you grow as a coach and a practitioner, and as you learn more, then you start adding stuff to your toolbox. I've actually been getting rid of stuff in the toolbox. I've been getting rid of stuff that didn't take us where we wanted to go. It didn't fit into the realm. It was hard work, and the kids understood that it was hard work, but it wasn't smart work. So it's more about the things that I've redlined and gotten rid of this little checklist of things, and more about what we've kept and simplified and actually made it. So the more I've learned about things, it's the least amount of stuff we do to keep things simple and do it in different ways. Got to have goals and objectives, right? You have to have a target, you have to have a destination. So for us, in a long-term thing, for the 3 or 4 or 5 years that an athlete is with us, we want them to be explosive and powerful. We want that aspect to improve all the time. So that means we want to get them stronger, but they got to be able to use that strength in every endeavor out there on the field or the court or the mat or the track. We want to get them faster. That speed has to be applied in every direction that they may need to use it. Up, out, over, across. And we want them to be agile. And to define that even better is to be able to make transitions. So yes, I need to make transitions from this side of the field, the court, back to this side of the field, down to here. Those transitions, yes. But until I can make good transitions within my own body, how well do I flex, extend, and rotate? Until I can make those transitions, these transitions aren't going to go as well. And again, can I make those transitions with the right postural control and negotiate the ground with my good, less bends in the stick figure type thing? Into that more specifically in a little while. So that's the long term, over the course of that career. The short-term goals, so from postseason to off-season to pre-season to in-season, we want that power to become more durable. Power endurance. My wife's got her PhD in exercise physiology, so she never fails to remind me that there's no such word as power endurance. So, I took her advice. We want power reliability. We want to be powerful all the way through, quarter to quarter, half to half, day to day, week to week, game to game. In order to do that, several coaches talked about this. You got to develop the capacity to do work. A lot of people do work capacity. A lot of people train to be able to work. But again, what kind of work is it? Is it quality work, or is it just a bunch of work? We also talked about recoverability. A lot of good sessions today were about being able to recover from the work, okay? Within the work and outside of the work, intra and extra. And therefore, if we can do those kind of things, we start to develop a certain stamina. Or for me now, I'm actually even using the term more a robustness, an anti-fragileness to what we're doing. We're going to be more reliable in our ability to be explosive and powerful if we can just stay robust and resilient. That's them. So, in order to get those goals, be explosively powerful and have that power, be reliability, same thing we just talked about before: functional strength, directional speed, and transitional agility. And we already talked about it has to establish itself, this great force over a small base of support. Okay? That's where you see it manifest itself. If he's not able to project his hips off of that point very well, this guy wins. He loses. Okay? Likewise, if he does this better, if he's able to burst off of that point and accelerate out of it better than that person, or he's able to do it better than that person, then we start to have success. And then you have to be able to do it over and over. Same thing as before, the riding and tilting reflex. What are you doing in flight that's going to allow you to negotiate the ground quickly and efficiently, healthily, so that you can continue to move on from there? So that's the whole idea. That's the concept. So over the years, we always get into this balancing act. How are we tipping the scales? One extreme is obviously just massively strong. Get strong. The other thing, which, and the internet is a great thing. The internet gives out a lot of information. Sometimes that information takes you in the wrong direction. A lot of times. Because anybody can put anything on the internet in terms of training. So you have this other spectrum of the so-called functional training thing. Either way, if you tilt the scale too far one way or the other, what you end up training or practicing is failure. You get to the point where you're always failing because it's got to be heavier, higher, more weight, more load. Maybe you need a partner to bump it up, or you got to do force reps, all these types of things. But in essence, you're practicing not being able to get the thing done on your own. Same thing here. Well, if this is wobbly, maybe you can do one that's even wobblier, and then all of a sudden you're practicing something that you'll never apply to real ground. From that standpoint, so all you're doing is practicing something that doesn't apply. Okay. So for us, it's got to have a certain checklist of